Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest edition of the Broad Street Line. I'm Roy Burton. Alongside me, as always, my tag team partner, one Chris Domingo. Mr. Domingo, I say this with
Sorry.
a heavy sigh. How are you doing during this, as always, during the pandemic, air quotes, Saturday morning, sir?
You know what? For special days like this,
Yes.
we need to bring in someone like Daryl Morey needs to bring in at the trade deadline. A guy who can create shots for himself and others. So, that's who we brought in. We brought in a guy that's just willing to fire up those shots.
This is what we do. Again, we are all about the cross racial comparisons here on the Broad Street Line. So we're like the Celtics big three.
Yes.
Again, he is Paul Pierce. Again, when you need a shot, when you need somebody to call game, you call Jason Ashworth. You know, the unofficial third member of the team. Jason, how's it going, man?
Bro, I was doing well till you just compared me to Paul Pierce.
Paul Pierce is a Hall of Famer.
Can't do it.
What do you want? I mean, I know he's a Celtic lifer,
Trying to wheel me out in a wheelchair? Nope, can't do it.
sometimes you gotta go to the bathroom, and sometimes
I understand.
You gotta make it seem like you don't have to go to the bathroom. But no, with Jason Ashworth is here, joining us on 106.5 FM WPPM LP Philadelphia. As we were recording this show, hours before we recorded this show, the deal finally went down. You know, it's great. You know, it's a good thing. Before we get into it, it's a good thing that that there's something called fate, right? And fate kind of comes and intervenes at times. And Chris and I have been doing this show for, I think it's over a decade now. And this week was literally the least amount of time I ever spent putting together a rundown for the show, because I just work stuff and Chris has work stuff, and it's very busy. But you know what? Didn't need the time this week. Because you know what? Fate came down and fate shined upon all of us, because Carson Wentz was dealt earlier this week to the Indianapolis Colts for a third-round pick and a conditional second-round pick, which may become a first-round pick. I will leave it there and turn it over to our guest, Mr. Paul Pierce himself, Jason Ashworth. Jason Ashworth, your initial reaction to the news of the trade.
Well, because the FCC is involved, I'll bite my tongue just a little bit in how I go about my thoughts. Shock. Not shock because we didn't see it coming. We knew we saw it coming, but the reality of it actually, the finite reality of, okay, Carson Wentz is no longer a Philadelphia Eagle. And that's all well and good. Look, I get it. I understand why. I don't like it. I never did like it. I never got in the camp of you've got to trade Carson Wentz. Again, I understand the context behind it. I understand why they did it. It was an untenable situation. I get it. But just for me, I don't know how I'm struggling right now to understand how the Eagles are better today than they were yesterday. I don't necessarily see the path. And maybe I'm just thinking short term, right? Maybe I'm just thinking, well, okay, for 2021, they're not any better. And it's not about just 2021, right? It's about short term and long term. But I'm a Carson guy. I always have been, by and large anyway, an 11 supporter. I understand he had a terrible 2020. I can't help but think that Howie, and I have also defended Howie at times, but Howie and most importantly Jeffrey Lurie have just completely botched this entire situation, a major organizational failure that's leaving me despondent, that's leaving me aggravated, that's leaving me frustrated, because I just don't know how the hell we got to this point. And there's no going back. The toothpaste is out of the tube. There's no going back. Carson Wentz is now a Colt, and we're sitting here left, everyone's staring at each other saying, okay, what now?
Yeah.
And I hate that feeling, man. No,
because usually I'm a numbers guy, and usually there's a finite answer to a problem. I mean, a number doesn't. The problem is this should be a sports Law and Order, because there's really because you can guesstimate, you can speculate, you can do all the eights, but no one knows where this went. You can guess on the number of things that went wrong that precipitated this, but it's all subjective. And we'll never get the right, the real answer to this. I mean, usually, I don't know, you can point to one event, and I don't know, me and Roy and Jason, you probably have thought, there are certain things that say, oh, this triggered it, but no one can come to a consensus. And I think, unfortunately, that's the Carson Wentz era for me will be so much like there was no middle ground. Like either like I don't know, this was the franchise, this was the savior, and then on the other end there was a lot of other stuff. And well, I like Roy, I don't know if you can tell, will we ever get the real answer to the Carson Wentz conundrum?
I don't think we're going to get an answer, but I mean, I think if you want to point to a reason, and again, I don't know if it's a singular, I'll say this, it's not a singular event, but I think that Carson or at least thought, because maybe it doesn't even care anymore, that the Eagles didn't really have his back. Like, I don't think that Carson felt like that franchise guy. And I know he got paid like the franchise guy and all that stuff, but between, the whole Nick Foles, coming back nonsense and the whole Jalen Hurts thing, I don't know if Carson Wentz ever got that feeling that, I am the guy. Like this team, like Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman and everybody in that front office trusting me, and Doug Peterson for that matter, trusting me and believes in me and thinks I'm the guy. I don't think Carson, maybe he felt that the day after he signed the contract, but after that, I don't know. And I think that more than anything is probably the reason behind this.
So what you're saying is there's always been a slight fracture. Like it obviously, like it wasn't, the foundation wasn't solid. There was always a slight crack. So,
and Jason, I'm sorry, I'm going to let you let you jump in. Because we always talk about, and we've talked about how Doug Peterson said you got to love up on these guys, right? I think Carson Wentz needed a little bit more love. I don't think he got the amount of love that he would have gotten, and probably
from the organization.
Quite frankly, probably deserved by being a quarterback as good as he was. And again, I hate to be this guy, but as good as he was in 2017 and getting that money, he probably deserved a little bit more love from this organization. I'll turn it over to you, Jason.
So, because you're hitting the nail on the head, I think, right? So a general manager's job, or just an organization's job is, and let's just use Howie Roseman, for example, because as critical as I am of Howie Roseman, I also think he does a lot of things very well. But as a general manager, your job is to manage in general. Right. Mm-hmm. And that means how you treat one player, you treat another player a little differently. And let's be honest, the quarterback just gets treated differently than the 53rd man on the roster. It's just, That's the way the NFL works. That's the way professional sports works. But I think in this case, I think Carson needed a little extra love. Yes, I think there are things that they did that, whether it be the contract or taking shots on players or draft picks, that maybe they didn't work out. Maybe in retrospect, they were the wrong moves because they didn't pan out the way that we thought that they would. But there are certain things they did to placate or AKA help Carson. Mm-hmm. But then there was also a lot of things they could have done to feed the ego a little bit or just push him along. Maybe he's a little more insecure than some other players. Maybe he needs that little love and attention a little more than some other players. And I'm not sure that they did that. However, you said that the reason that this all kind of went down, you said, was because the way Carson felt. And I think the reason it all went down, you can just stop right there, because of Carson. Mm-hmm. It's because of that. At the end of the day, right, wrong, or indifferent, however we got to this point, the reason Carson Wentz is now a Colt is because Carson Wentz no longer wanted to be in Philadelphia.
Yes,
Carson Wentz made that decision that I don't want all he had to do. Think about this. All he had to do. And I said, because I'm not trying to be hypocritical, I said from the jump when Carson Wentz wasn't talking, and he just kind of sat back and he shut his mouth. Mm-hmm. Initially, I thought that was good. Because, look, what are you going to do? Opening your mouth up. People are going to read into every word that you say, put more words in your mouth. There's going to be another story, another hit piece, another clickbait article about it, right? So you're better off until this thing settles down. Just shut your mouth. I was okay with that. But if Carson really wanted to be in Philadelphia, if he really wanted to stay here the way that a lot of us want to say, just say something. Hey, I need to get better. Yeah. Hey, I know 2020 wasn't my best outing. I want to be in Philadelphia. I welcome the competition between myself and Jalen Hurts and bettering this football team for 2021. I'm not going anywhere. Didn't say that. In fact, behind the scenes, he just kind of pushed to ultimately how he had to get a third-round pick and a conditional second for him. That's all he could get because everyone knew Carson didn't want to be in Philadelphia.
Right.
I'm so glad our trade deadline pickup has just worked wonders in the first 3 minutes. No, like I mean, like really, like for me, that's where I've always stood on this. Was it's one thing to like hold yourself accountable, like within your team, but to like, and we never got like, and I'm sorry, the public accountability has always been missing for me, and it's like, I never, me personally, never got the sense that Carson, even though there were a lot of parts that were responsible for this downfall, he didn't own his piece. I needed and for whatever reason, he doesn't believe that he played a big part in this dissolving. And Jason, like you said, like he didn't he didn't go out and Deshaun Watson it and say, yo, I want to be traded. But just imagine if he did. Like, I mean, you probably wouldn't even gotten the third. Like, I mean, like that's where I struggle with. I'm kind of glad Carson didn't say anything because you might have gotten something worse, but it's been going on. And like once he didn't say anything after Sirianni got hired, I was like, this guy's gone.
Here's where I struggle with the whole thing. Roy, you know this. Back in the day, we used to do a show together, and I was often critical of his play on the field, right? Because I was just, it's what I saw, but every post game, he would say, I got to be better. Right. He would take accountability after each and every game. And I was good with that because ultimately I felt like he was not elite, but I felt like he had some elite characteristics, elite traits that if he could put it all together, hey, we've got something here in Philadelphia. If this guy can put it together, we've seen it. And it may not be as consistent as we wanted, but we know he had it, right? So I was good with him taking accountability there. But I'm struggling right now because I know that, look, we all know he's a good dude. All right, we all know his Christian faith. We know he's got the parts and pieces as a human being, that he's a good dude, right? Okay, we understand that from what we know.
Right.
But I'm struggling right now because right, wrong, or indifferent, I feel like my opinion is starting to change. Like my opinion of Carson is starting to change, and that frustrates me. I don't want to feel that way because I know that Carson's a good dude, but I can't understand why he had I'm upset with him that it got to this point. Put it that way. Right. I can sit here and I can bang on Howie and I can bang on Lurie and I can bang on Peterson. I can bang on those dudes you can bang on anybody for their shortcomings or where they went wrong. Where I'm getting upset with Carson is he had an ability to make all this go away, to make all this drama go away by just saying, no, this is my city. This is my team. I know what everybody thinks about me. I know everyone wants to say I'm a diva. I know everyone wants to act like I'm not secure in my position. But I am, and I'm here. And he didn't do it. In fact, dug his feet in the ground even firmer. And now we're sitting here saying, all right, who's Jalen Hurts? He's our quarterback for 2021. What has he got in the bag? What's the next 3 years going to be? And we're all completely lost. And I'm frustrated because 11 had every opportunity to just silence that and didn't do it.
But if he didn't, but if he doesn't feel that way, and again, why should he? Like, because you had teammates go to the coach and say, hey, you got to put Jalen Hurts in. Like you had teammates going behind Carson Wentz's back and say, yo, Carson Wentz ain't the guy. Like there was other rumblings in that locker room saying, yo, we're not 100% behind Carson Wentz.
No.
If you're Carson Wentz, why should you say, yo, why should you double down and say, yo, man, Philly's my home. This is my city.
Is he the first player?
Want to be.
But I agree. And look, please understand, everything I'm saying now is in the moment. And I'm being devil's advocate. Right? So just hear me out. Is he the first player ever to have somebody doubt him? Is he the first player ever in the locker room that somebody said, hey, yo, I'm better than you?
Finally,
all right, you're not all that.
I'm starting to see this. Oh, my God. Jason,
but I
always
gave him the benefit of the doubt, though. I always said, no, he's got that quiet confidence. He's that North Dakota that we're not used to. He just does things a little differently. He's a little – and maybe not – maybe. Just maybe, and I hate saying it, but just maybe he's not that confident cat that we thought he was. Maybe there's some truth. Maybe there's some truth to the fact
we might need to sign you to like a rest of the season. No, because
I hate saying it. I hate it, but it's my truth right now.
I feel vindicated now.
When I'm looking at it, right, and when I'm just using my optics on it, I was praying that Carson will be here in 2021 because what people are saying about him is untrue. He'll be here and he'll prove all you wrong, and that's fine. But by him not saying anything, forcing his way out, and not maybe doing what I had expected in my back pocket at the end of the day for him to do, just gives a little more credence and validation to what maybe some of the folks were saying in the locker room as this guy ain't our leader. Or maybe why some people took towards a Jalen Hurts or a Nick Foles in the past over a Carson Wentz. And it's unsettling to me, right? It's frustrating to me because that's not at all who I thought 11 was. And now I have no choice but to sit here and say, oh, okay, maybe they were right. And I hate that. I hate that, man. I really do.
So let's put a bow in it because again, I think we all agree, and Adam Schefter himself said Carson isn't here because he didn't want to be here. Period. Point blank. Like it is what it is. So how do we remember the Carson Wentz era? Like how do we when we think back? You know, and again, right now it's a little raw. You know, emotions are kind of tense right now. But let's say 5 years from now, let's say 10 years from now, how do we remember Carson Wentz? How do we remember this era of Eagles football? Because again, like the greatest season of Carson Wentz's career, obviously 2017, he wasn't on the field when they won the Super Bowl.
Outlier, right?
So
That's an outlier.
right. So like 2017 is probably an outlier. 2020 is probably an outlier. So the real Carson Wentz is probably somewhere in the middle. But again, so how do we remember Carson Wentz? Like what is his, again, I guess,
He's a really good quarterback
as an Eagle?
He's a really good quarterback that didn't pan out because you said his rookie year, he showed some really good signs as a rookie. Granted, the numbers, what was he, 16 touchdowns, 14 picks, but more just his command of the offense, what he was able to do as a rookie was impressive, right? But 2017, clearly at this point, we're looking at it saying that's the outlier. That's his ceiling, right? That's what the best of Carson Wentz that you're going to get. And 2020 was the worst of Carson Wentz that you're going to get. So let's look in the middle. Let's take those as the outliers, and we'll look at the medium, which is 2018 and 2019. Well, 2018 was a really good year statistically for him. It was very similar in many ways to 2017. And then 2019, what he did, granted, he has his peaks and valleys, his ups and downs, but at the end of the year, what he did with practice squad guys, I mean, I think by and large, the league looked at and said, oh, now hold on, that's impressive. Right. That's a solid year. So maybe he's not as good as 2017, but he's certainly not as bad as 2020. So 18 and 19 tell me this is a really, really good quarterback that this whirlwind of events just added up and it could never recover, that it was mismanaged by the organization. It was mismanaged by the quarterback. It was mismanaged by the other 52 in the locker room, to where here we are. We had to move on from potentially what could have been the greatest quarterback that you would have had in franchise history. He was certainly on a path to do that, statistically anyway. So I would look at Carson Wentz and I would just say lost cause, it was an opportunity cost. So it's again, why I sit here right now, reaching out to you earlier in the day saying, I got to get these thoughts off, Roy, right? Because we're left with nothing but frustration and fear. I'm left with fear because the last thing I want to see is him go get it right with Frank Wright in Indianapolis and be yet another example in Philadelphia of the guy that got away, couldn't get it done in Philadelphia, but has uber success elsewhere, and we have to watch it. Oh, I can't stand that.
So let's talk about that again. The Carson Wentz traded, on Thursday for a 3rd round pick and a conditional 2nd round pick, which can become a 1st round pick, given playing time incentives and things like that. So let me just ask you straight up: like, did the Eagles get fair value for that quarterback, that opportunity cost in Carson Wentz?
Did they get fair value? Yes, they got fair value. It's not the value that anybody wanted. It's not the value that we convinced ourselves.
Jason, you're making this like really easy for me. You're just kind of, no, because my initial thought was you see a 3 and a conditional 2. You're like, you don't see the 1. You need to see the numbers. You need to see a 1st round pick. And I go back on my thoughts and I'm like, maybe if you got a 1st round pick next year, because this draft is real weird, like with COVID and everything, the lack of scouting, the lack of personal workouts you're going to get. Maybe you don't want to double down on 21. You can get a draft pick in 2022. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting to like this a little more. And then I see the parameters on which the conditions, like 70% in making the playoffs. That seems like, I mean, he played 72% of the snaps last year and he got benched 4 games with 4 games left. So, I mean, that's a pretty reasonable expectation. And Jason, I asked Roy, it's like, can Frank Reich mechanically, emotionally, and mentally rebuild this quarterback in an offseason where he is comparable to what they had last year with Phillip Rivers?
So it's interesting you bring up Phillip Rivers. A couple things. Can Frank Reich repair him emotionally and mentally? Yes, I believe he can. Can he repair him mechanically? That I don't know. And obviously the game plan will have a lot to do with it. But let's talk about Frank Reich and what he did with Phillip Rivers. So, obviously he's got familiarity with Phillip Rivers. And if you look at Phillip's last season with the Chargers, he had, I think it was 23 touchdowns and 20 picks, QBR of 88.5. And a passer or a completion percentage, I think it was like 66%. Well, get him under Frank Reich, right? And he gets him to 24 touchdowns, 10 picks, a 97 QBR, 68% completion percentage. So his numbers exponentially increased. His turnovers decreased. Now, we know Carson had success with DeFilippo, who obviously was with the Bears, and a lot of people were connecting Carson to the Bears. Right. We were hoping that was going to be the 1st round pick that you would net in return. But I think to kind of answer this question in multiple facets, they can turn him around. And I think the Colts gave up what they felt was fair value. If Carson pans out, it'll pan out for the Eagles. And if he doesn't, okay, well, then the Eagles net a second and a third. Is that what we wanted to hear? No, it's not. But if there was really only one team feasibly in this race, and it was the Colts all along, the Colts aren't going to bid against themselves. They stood pat. Howie had no choice but to get the value he could get. And so whether we like it or not, that was the market, and Howie did what he could, all things considered.
And this is what I don't understand, because again, like you said, like there basically was no market, for Carson Wentz. I mean, the Eagles didn't have that much leverage with Carson Wentz, and then the royal we have been kind of saying, Carson Wentz is terrible, blah 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 blah. Well, I don't know how you expect, multiple first round picks for
other teams have the internet too. Other teams have Twitter too.
I can go on Spotrac just like everybody else. I can go on Pro Football Reference just like everybody else. Like NFL League Pass, Game Pass is like $100. I can buy it and watch film.
And I guarantee you, they have a lot more close sources to this than you or I do. So they I mean, they're not like Chris Ballard's not going to give up a potential first round pick unless he's doing a lot of research, and it's not just asking Frank Reich, hey, do you think you can fix this guy? I mean, they're probably asking Sirianni right now, or they're probably that's why I think, no, I'll say it, I thought they could get a first round pick, but the more I looked at it and I was like, no, this is probably the most equitable deal that you're going to get. And I think Sheil Kapadi must have said it as this is Carson's last stand. He's not going to risk his last shot at being a real good quarterback on going to a bad team like maybe the Bears, where there's not the infrastructure there for him to the infrastructure is here for him to succeed. And I just hope that Carson doesn't think the pressure is off him now, because I think the pressure is ramped up.
Oh yeah, let's make no bones about this. The pressure is not off Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
The pressure is on Carson.
It's magnified.
Because guess what? Yeah, magnified because
he got his wish. He's not going to the Lions. He's not going to another team. You have an above average offensive line, probably one of the best in the league. You have young skill players. You have cap space. You have you have familiarity. No,
there's no excuse anymore.
Yeah,
you said, you got a top line. You're going to the coach that you felt you had the most success with previously and the most potential to have success with moving forward. You're going to a playoff caliber team that has Super Bowl expectations
this
and
year,
aspirations.
This year,
right.
Yeah.
You go to Indy and you don't play well, they don't make the playoffs. They have a solid running game. There's literally no excuse for the Colts not to contend in that division.
He doesn't get a 1 year pass. It needs to be immediate in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They wouldn't have brought him in if they didn't feel like he was going to be the difference maker. If they didn't feel that's the whole reason they brought in Phillip Rivers last year on a 1 year deal. Hey, all right, we've got a chance. Let's see if we can find something now. Let's see if we can find a little magic now. And now here they go out and give up potentially a first and a third. If next year we're sitting here saying the Eagles got a first and a third, okay, that means Carson Wentz did his job in Indianapolis, because the only way the Eagles are getting that first is if he plays pretty well, because he's either got to play 75% of the snaps, and if he plays 75% of the snaps with that team, they should make the postseason, or he's got to play 70% and still make the postseason. Either way, you got to make the postseason for Carson Wentz for this to be a success for the Colts. So in that regard, look, pressure's on. You are not alleviated of any pressure right now. In fact, by the way you went about it, you've put it squarely on your shoulders, sir.
So let's just put a bow in the Carson Wentz portion of this for a second. And again, let's forget about the draft pick, because obviously the draft pick matters in this next question I'm going to ask. But Jason Ashworth, are you going to actively root for Carson Wentz going forward?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, I know I said when we tipped the show off that I'm conflicted and I'm frustrated with Carson, and maybe my opinion of him is changing a little bit, but I don't actively root against anybody personally. You want everybody. I mean, if that's the fan in us all talking game day, I'll root against him. If the Eagles are playing the Colts, I will root against Carson Wentz on game day. But I mean, we've spent time with Carson Wentz. We know who that dude is as a person as best as we can from the outside looking in. I don't wish ill on the guy. He doesn't talk harm. I know all these hit pieces are coming out questioning his character and he's done X, Y, Z. for all intent and purposes, Carson Wentz is not a bad dude, and I don't wish any ill on him. I wish him nothing but success. And as we said earlier, his success will lead to the Eagles recouping a better pick. So
and that's why I asked you to separate it, because obviously next year, no matter how you think about Carson Wentz, if you're an Eagles fan, you should root for Carson Wentz to do pretty well next year. Just because from the draft pick situation. But again, Carson Wentz, like I said, I don't root against people. I mean, Carson Wentz gave me several very entertaining years of my life, and just for that reason alone, I'll root for him wherever he goes. So
I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little sidebar as to why you should root for Carson Wentz, because there's a lot of angst in the city right now in terms of, okay, well, Doug Peterson wasn't the problem, but they fired him. And I'm just saying hypothetically, right? Okay, Doug Peterson's not the problem, but he gets fired. And Carson Wentz, for some, isn't the problem, but he gets traded. And the one guy who a lot of people, right, regardless of where you fall on it, but the one guy a lot of people are aiming at is still employed. And that guy's Howie Roseman. So if Carson Wentz goes to Indianapolis and has nothing but success, how's that going to look for Howie Roseman? How is Jeffrey Lurie going to look at Howie Roseman and say, you made the right decisions along the way. You helped us keep our franchise. There's nothing Howie would have done that could shed a positive light on how all this was handled. So if you're the type that want Howie out, you want Carson Wentz to succeed in Indianapolis.
Yeah, no, that's the 3D chess element of this. It's I think I tweeted this. It's like, man, being a Philly sports fan requires so much emotional bandwidth.
Sucks.
I can't spend any more of it rooting hard for or against another an ex-player. I mean, I'm too old to have favorite players. I mean, no, and I think, Jason, I think a lot of people have a hard time saying Carson Wentz is, by all accounts, a great God-fearing man, but he might not be the best dude to work with. Those aren't mutually exclusive qualities. I mean, you can be and for me, I've never thought ill about Carson Wentz's character. He's probably just he's probably and all the stories. He's strong-willed. I mean, he's always been the alpha, and it just didn't work. And this is, and it's gonna take some time. But if I see Carson Wentz drop a 4 TD no pick game, I'll be like, good for that dude. We're that much closer to a first round pick. I mean, that's just how I'm like you said, unless they're playing the Eagles.
Well, that's a gut. This is a gut check for Carson too, because where you said he's always been the alpha. Yeah, you've always been the alpha until some real alphas step in the room.
Yeah,
then we're going to find out what kind of alpha you really are. And I think that might have been a wake-up call for him, or may have shook him a
Let's
little
hope.
bit.
No,
he hasn't been able to recover.
Because I've always said, no pun intended, he needs to have a come to Jesus moment. That'd be how much of this was me and what I need. Because everyone, when everyone was doing postmortems, what Doug needs to do better, what Howie needs, what tangibly does Carson Wentz need to do? I mean, does he need to and me and Roy said this a couple weeks ago, talking about QB leadership. Unless you are elite, you might need to reach to the room and kind of ingratiate yourself, because I'm not unless you are ultimately leading by play. And I think that's what 27 Carson did. He was so damn good, everyone just had to follow him because he was. But when you're a good quarterback, you might need to but that's the hard part about leadership. You can't really quantify it. You
either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And that's why a lot of people kind of have gravitated, or what has followed Jalen Hurts throughout his career, is you can't really put a finger on it. And even when you see him in the Eagles uniform and he's got that swag, he's got that, you just have that look about him.
That juice.
That you can just,
juice.
There's just that, it's the it factor. And everybody says, what is the it factor? Well, we don't know. It's just it. You either have it or you don't.
Right.
And I think a lot of the times, that can fall with leadership. You either know how to lead men, you either can garner the room, you can captivate minds in a room, or you can't. And it's just empty words. And I'm not telling you what Carson is or isn't. I'm not in that locker room. I have no idea. But I just mean to reiterate the point that you either have it or you don't. And Carson needs to humble himself a little bit and have some self-reflection. Okay, who am I as a player? Who am I as a leader? Who am I as a person? Because I don't care that he's 28 years old. I mean, in life, that's a baby still. Right. You're still a baby. So, I mean, he's got a lot of self-reflection to do to figure out how he's going to salvage his career and what he's going to do in Indianapolis. And I wish him well. I honestly, honest to goodness, I really wish the guy well.
But this is a good segue on the future of the Eagles because is like, can we unequivocally say Jalen Hurts is going to be the quarterback? Like, I don't know for this team. Like,
you're a homer.
Yeah, no, like, because I mean, like, that's the part of me that's scared is the unknown. Is I don't know what this team does at 6 anymore. I don't.
Well, let's get the elephant in the room here addressed. If the Eagles do not consider a quarterback at 6, they're doing themselves a disservice. Okay, I'm not sitting here telling you that I think they've got to take a quarterback at 6. I am not trying to fool anybody into act like, okay, well, you just traded all those assets to get Carson Wentz in 2016, and then you spent the money on Foles, and then you go out and you draft a you pay big money to Wentz, you draft a quarterback in the second round. I'm not telling you they've handled the quarterback position well over the last 5 years.
But the effort's there. Like, they know that the quarterback. Yeah,
that's my point. The effort is there because this team values the quarterback position. It may not pan out, but they invest in it and they value it. So for them to be sitting there at 6, and for us to have question marks about who Jalen Hurts is or who Jalen Hurts isn't, because the reality is we don't know, you better do your due diligence. And if somebody is there at 6 that you say you absolutely have to have, then I don't care who Jalen Hurts is or who Jalen Hurts isn't. Do the due diligence. A good football team knows you've got to have the quarterback. And if you don't have the quarterback and you're sitting at 6, and I'm going to completely counter this point in about 2 minutes, but if you don't have the quarterback and you're sitting there at 6, you better at least just give it a look. So in terms of what they do, all bets are off, man. But if you think they're not considering a quarterback, I think you're mistaken.
You have to consider a quarterback at 6 because again, it's 6, and again, it's not. I mean, it's a and look, quarterback is the most important position on the whole field. So like, obviously, you need to get that right. And if you're at 6, and there's a guy who probably, given your draft boards, whatever, you probably have ranked higher than you had Jalen Hurts last year. So you really need to think about this. And again, we've seen Jalen Hurts. We don't know what Jalen Hurts is, but Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, whoever, Trey Lance, whoever's there at 6, you probably feel on some level, again, draft, your scouts or whatever, probably feel on some level has more measure or is a better talent than Jalen Hurts. Because again,
how often do you get a top 6 pick?
Exactly. And if Jalen Hurts was that
right, how
good,
often do you have a shot at
he'd have been drafted in the first round last year. Jalen Hurts was really that good coming out of school. He'd have been drafted in the top 10 last year. He wasn't, for a reason, and for whatever it's worth. So I don't think they go quarterback, like you said, Jason. You got to think about it. You really need to think about it. And again, we just saw the top 2 quarterbacks in the 2016 draft get traded in the last 3 weeks. They got paid and both got traded from their original team. So drafting that high obviously isn't a guarantee for anything, but you still need to have that discussion.
Here's why I think they roll with Jalen Hurts. For the very reason, and more importantly, why I think they don't draft a quarterback. Well, first of all, I think they need to figure out, before they go all in, they got to figure out who they have in Jalen Hurts, right? They at some point, they have to figure that out, right? So understanding right now that they are, $60 million or whatever it is, $63 million over the cap. And they've got an old roster with aging veterans that are injury prone. They've got a lot of turnover that they have to endure. I think the reason they're trading Carson is they're ripping that Band-Aid off and saying, okay, fine, we're going to eat that $34 million and we're going to endure it now.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the purge starts, because then you need to, because that Band-Aid was expensive. And now you need to rip all those Band-Aids off. And I don't know if there's a veteran on this team that I'm going to that is necessarily, I don't say untradeable, but is one of those expensive offensive linemen worth getting rid of, even though you need, and I think this is the fine line of, can you build a competent infrastructure to know what you have in Jalen Hurts, but without just gutting it. And
that's a very good point. Because you have to have if you go out and trot out a bunch of backup offensive linemen or cheap veterans for Jalen Hurts, you're never going to know who you truly have. However, the trick in this whole sauce is, by the time you figure out who you have in Jalen Hurts, and by the time you get your cap situation settled and maybe have a couple drafts where you can build your foundation for the future, If Jalen Hurts pans out and turns out to be anything decent, what do you have to do?
That's the lottery
You gotta
ticket.
pay him.
Pay
You
him.
gotta pay
You
him.
got to
Yep.
pay
Yeah.
him. And we know in the NFL, you've got to capitalize on those years where you've got
Yep.
a young quarterback that's very promising and doesn't earn that massive QB check. That's your window to really start building your organization and surrounding your quarterback with talent to win some football games. And right now, they'd be wasting that.
Yeah, no, I hope Eagles fans realize that 2021 is going to be very lean. And I think it's just, but like, I mean, but you need to get that ledger straight. Like 2021 needs to be a financial developmental year and say, you know what, but like you said, Jason, it comes back to that draft. I mean, you need to find elite players, like that really young elite players. And do we trust that? Like,
No.
No. And I think, but it comes back to, like I said, no Wentz or no Wentz. Until you can find elite players in the draft, we're going to be having this discussion 2-3 years from now.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's going to be a different Nick Sirianni. I mean, like that's where, and I think that's where Howie and Doug kind of clashed. Was Howie thought he was giving Doug good talent, and Doug wasn't developing them. But Doug's like, these guys suck. But now you have a different set of ears and coaches to say, this is all Howie's saying. I know it wasn't me; it was Doug. But I don't know.
And I agree with. I think Howie is saying that because if you're listening to whoever you want to listen to, or if you're connected wherever you're connected, the thought is that there was this divide come draft day, and the coaches were on one side and the scouts were on the other side. And the coaches said, "No, we need Rager for XYZ." The scouts said, "Hey, Justin Jefferson's the better player." The coaches or the scouts said, "Hey, this Jeremy Chin guy, he's a good player." A lot of people agree. The coaches said, well, Howie and Lori really said, well, we like this Jalen Hurts cat. So I think there's that big divide. Now, obviously a brand new coaching staff in there. We talk about Carson being self-reflected and humbled a little bit. Jeffrey Lurie better be self-reflective and humbled a little bit to understand his role in all of this, because as I've maintained throughout this entire process, if you're mad at anybody, you're mad at Jeffrey Lurie and you just don't know it. But that's the guy. That's the main culprit who allows all this to happen.
Man.
Yeah.
Can't fire the owner.
Can't find the owner. Can't find. I get it, right?
No,
but he's an
Jason,
enabler,
like you said,
and you're just as guilty when you're the enabler.
Oh,
no, but
100%.
Jason, like you said, he feels like he feels when he got that Super Bowl, he's like, yo, let me play with this toy a little more. Because before that, you really didn't see him playing with the toy. But like
we didn't see it. I don't know if it happened or not. We didn't see it.
But now it's more, and the only thing you could do, hope for rich people, is hope they get embarrassed enough to stay out of the limelight. Because really, this has been the most heat Jeffrey Lurie's gotten in a long time. And maybe this is, like you said, self-reflection for him to be like, okay, let me not talk up J-Jaw and let the scouts and whoever do their job. But we still don't know the answer. And like, it's all like, it's cliche, but this draft is really damn important.
It really is. And look, we're no experts, right? And I would never sit here and try to tell anybody that the YouTube videos that I watch at home and the all 22s that I have access to, have any weight or merit, because they don't in comparison to what scouts actually do on a day in and day out basis, right? And I think anybody that sits at home on their computer and acts like they're a scout, okay, that's just silly. Yeah. But I think to a man or a woman, whatever we're saying in 2021, the reality is you can tell. There are certain players that you can tell can play the game of football. They're just better than other people. That you've got a sense that when that person's on the field, he's just elite. He's just got something that other guys don't have. And I think too many times the Eagles anyway just get cute and they try to say, well, I know he's not quite as good as this guy, but we can develop him into XYZ. Stop getting cute. Especially in 2021. BPA all day, every day. And if that means you get Jamar Chase at 6, fantastic. And Chase is gone, and you're telling me that on your board, scouts, not necessarily coaches, but the scouts board, you're telling me it's Pitts? Fan-freaking-tastic. Get me BPA, get me football players throughout the 7 rounds, wherever your picks may be. Stick to your board. But in fairness, you've got to make sure that you understand and you've properly evaluated the folks in your organization that are creating that board, right? You have to be self-reflective on them and understand, who the hell is creating this board? How are we getting his names on the board? And are we following it come draft day? Stop with the game. Stop with getting cute. Just draft some football players, man.
Well, so
Now-
let me turn this around, and I'll bring it to you, Chris. But let me turn this around and ask both of you guys, because again, we watch our fair share of YouTube here, and we think we know some things about this draft. What do you see the Eagles doing at 6, and what would you do at 6 for the Eagles, depending on how you think the board's going to shake out? What do you see them going? Where do you see them going? What would you use? Well, you already said Jason, best player available, but who in particular do you have? I mean, Jamar Chase is probably your guy, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I don't know if he is though. Because
Okay.
what if for whatever reason, Miami makes a trade out of 3, right? So Miami, or I think Miami's the linchpin.
Yeah,
Because I have I have
card.
an idea of what Jacksonville's going to do, and I think we all have an idea of what the Jets may do. Miami could swing a couple different ways. And again, I think we have an idea of where Atlanta may go, may not go. Same with Cincinnati. But if I'm sitting there at 6, and if Sewell's available. I get it. Maybe we don't want it's not the sexy pick. I understand that. But if I'm going to
Did people watch the Super Bowl? Did people watch the Super Bowl that know like
quarterback, don't you?
Trenches. Like
Right.
like that's what I think people forget about the football Bible. Is like, I don't know, build the lines. And I think that the Eagles and Eagles fans have been spoiled that they've had a really good line for a long time. And
Correct.
You know what happens? Like, and the 1 year where the line, I don't think it was god awful, but it wasn't good. This is what happens. So you know what? Go back into that. Like, no, like I'll say Penny Sewell's like my number one. Like, I don't know. He's my preferred choice if he's available. Like, I mean, like
if he's available. Again, we said if you're not looking at quarterback, you're doing yourself a disservice. If he's available and you're not seriously considering him, you're doing yourself a disservice. For years, we were spoiled with those bookend tackles. Right.
Yeah.
And you've still got Lane Johnson on the right. And look, maybe Mailata is going to – he had up and down last year, but maybe he is going to be your left tackle. Maybe Dillard isn't as bad as we think he is. They've already invested a first-round pick in him, and he's a name that we often forget about or overlook. He's still on the roster. So maybe they won't, in fact, draft a tackle. I don't know. If he's there, I give it serious consideration. If he winds up going, and now we're looking at maybe a skill position, and Chase is there, okay, I would love to go get myself a number 1 or a guy that we say can be a number 1. I'm not opposed to Pitts either. Because if he is just that much different, if he can be a difference maker, regardless of the position you're at, and I know we're saying a lot of sexy names, tight end and wide receiver, just go out and get me the best football player on your board that is there, regardless of the position, because this team they have so many needs, and I don't draft on needs now. That's not what I'm saying.
You know what they
But
need?
you
Elite players.
Good football players.
No, they need elite. They need blue chip players, and they have not been able to either acquire them in trades, free agency. But the good teams acquire the blue chip players in the draft.
I want a Pro Bowler. Get me a Pro Bowler.
Yes.
I don't care what position. Give me a Pro Bowler. Right?
Is that too much to ask? Like,
can I get just a couple? No.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it'd be great to get a Pro Bowl skill player, but I'll just ask for a Pro Bowl player. No, like this is where I am. Like, I just need blue chip players, and everything else will follow. I don't care. Like, because this is blue chip players make up for other flaws on your team. And like, I don't know, for the longest time, they've asked for the same guys to cover it up, like the Fletches, the Grahams. They're getting old. You need other guys to step up and cover up. Like, and that's for me. Like, obviously, Carson did a lot. I thought that a franchise quarterback like him, because I thought he was for a long time, could cover up flaws. And I don't know. And he couldn't here. And that's where either you don't have flaws or you just build a rock solid team around the quarterback. And for me, the Hurts thing, the salary is way too important. There's a reason why a lot of rookie quarterback guys on rookie quarterback deals make the Super Bowl, because the teams are so stacked around them. And I want to build that team.
That's how it works, right? When you're a quarterback and you're on your rookie deal, they build you with a lot of talent around just to see who you are, let you develop, understand what they've got in the room. When they pay you that big contract, they're paying you that big contract because they're saying you will make The guy we're giving all this QB1 money to will make up for our deficiencies in other areas. So all the arrows, the spotlights get put on you because, yeah, I get it. You had weapons when you were on your rookie contract, but we saw you. We believe in you. We've entrusted you with the ability to overcome the deficiencies when we don't give you, your $1 million, your $100 million line, or when we don't give you all the pretty toys on the outside or in the backfield. So that's something that Carson struggled with in 2017 when he had all that. And the line was healthy, and he had good running backs, and he had capable and complementary wide receivers, and they had a great defensive line that got pressure. When he had all those parts and pieces, he looked pretty damn good, didn't he? And when those things started going away, some of his warts started to get exposed, and we realized, okay, maybe he isn't the guy that can operate when everything's not perfect and in line across 53.
So, but here's the thing, though. So now we have the quarterback on the rookie deal, which is great, Jalen Hurts, whatever. But you don't have the money to put those pieces around him because, again, you're not yet, because you're egregiously over the cap. So again, what's going to happen this summer? What's going to happen this offseason? Because again, you got a lot of money, especially in that defensive line, that you're going to have to.
A lot of veteran jerseys going on sale at Dick's.
Who's not going to be here in August? That's my question.
Well, they've already made the post June 1 designations for Alshon Jeffrey, Malik Jackson, right? They've restructured that contract. They got them both to $2 million. So even if they do cut them pre-June 1, they're only on the hook for $2 million each. And I think that came with the caveat that if they are still on the roster, they got a $25 million contract guaranteed for 2022. So that all but tells you, okay, those two are gone, right? And they'll carry a cap hit of about $2 million each. I think you'll see those two gone. Obviously, they're going to look. I think they'll look to trade Zach Ertz. I don't know what the market will be. Anywhere from a 3 to a 5, I think, is fair to accept for Zach Ertz. There's a couple names that I don't really.
No, Jason. What is your shock cut or trade that
shock cut? If you're going to shock everybody, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to trade Darius Slay, right? Because you're going to look at him and say, well, he's 30 years old.
Right.
And this team isn't ready to compete. He's still got value. And if I let this contract play out or try to trade him next year, what am I really going to get for him? I don't know. He didn't perform to the level that maybe we expected him to last year. So in reality, depending on what they do in the draft, because they could go with a corner to pair, I don't know. But in reality, his value is still pretty strong in the market, right? There are teams that would give you something for Darius Slay. That could be a name where we're all sitting here saying, wait, after a year?
Right.
You only gave the guy a year and you moved off from him. If the Eagles are truly in rebuild mode and they don't think they're going to be ready to compete for another year or two, then it doesn't make sense to have his salary. It doesn't make sense to have a player of his caliber on the defensive side, in my opinion. So that would be a name that would probably surprise some folks, but I think is more realistic than we want to admit.
Yeah. A shutdown corner on a team that's going to be 5-11 is basically worthless. I mean, like there's really no point in the Darius Slay. Although, like you said, like a lot of people would be surprised by that. That said, we're talking about cutting guys. They're going to have to add a guy and specifically add a quarterback. Because again, there's the Pro Football Talk story from earlier this week that said that Jalen Hurts is going to have to battle for that QB1 spot. Is there anybody on that free agent market that's not going to be too expensive that kind of catches your eye, Jason?
Well, nobody catches my eye. Which is part of the reason why I said I don't want to get rid of 11. I think Brissett is probably a realistic option because he has a history with Sirianni, and he put up decent numbers with the Colts. When he was in that offense. So I think just from a familiarity perspective, it wouldn't hurt to get Jacoby in camp. If anything, just to kind of help Hurts with the offense, be a guy that understands the system a little bit. But I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to come right in and just take the job. When they say he's going to compete, it basically just means we're going to have another body there, but you're not going to sit here and trump the second round pick, right out of camp. So I would just think it's a guy that probably has familiarity with Sirianni's offense or can teach Jalen Hurts some of the intricacies of the X's and O's and more of a camp presence in a backup role. Yeah,
it's a better than Nate Sudfeld, but he's not really going to be the guy.
No. Jeffrey Lurie says Nate Sudfeld's got a lot of promise now.
That's right.
A lot of promise now.
Yeah, I was forgetting about that legendary game against the Cowboys from Nate
he was
Sudfeld.
the backup quarterback in the Super Bowl.
What
if Foles would have went down?
That's true.
A lot of troubles putting him.
One snap away.
Right, always.
So we are roughly, and again, I don't have the exact dates, but we are roughly a year and a half away from the Carson Wentz Bowl because the Eagles play the Colts in 2022 in Indianapolis. I'm going to ask both of you guys to put your thinking caps on. I guess get the crystal balls out for a second. Who are the quarterbacks on both of those teams in 2022? The Colts and Eagles.
Holy smokes!
It's 1 year. It's a year and a half away, but it's a long time in NFL years. So,
who's the starting quarterbacks?
I'm sorry. Who's the starting? Let me be clear. Who are the starting quarterbacks for the Eagles and the Colts in 2022? Let me be clear on that. Yeah.
We don't even know if it's at the beginning of the year.
Well, let's just assume it's October. It's October.
You know what? I'm gonna make the bold statement and say neither.
Well, no, give me a name. Don't do that. Give me a name.
Oh, geez.
Give me names. I need names. We're name show here.
I wish I was like more into college football because I would say the quarterback du jour, because I really believe the Eagles are going to be picking high next year also. So I mean, so that's where like obviously you need to do the due diligence, but I think the Eagles are going to get a couple shots at drafting high in next year. So I'm going to say
quarterback X next year from college for the Eagles.
Yes.
All right. And what about the Colts? Carson J. Wentz, or is it somebody else?
You know what? I'll say Carson because I think because for me, I think Carson will play good enough, but I don't think he'll be carrying anybody. And I think he'll still be they're going to ride out Carson for 2 years because he's under a pretty manageable cap number, 23 and change the next couple of years. So yeah. Carson versus quarterback A.
All right. What you got, Jason?
And I hate agreeing, just because it doesn't add any context or flavor.
Yeah.
In reality, I think Carson is probably the safe bet there. And I wish I could say it wouldn't be Jalen Hurts. Maybe it's just the optimist in me thinking, okay, and looking at just reality, right? And rationally speaking, it would make sense. It would behoove the Eagles to develop Jalen Hurts in 2021. And then if you found something and if he can be that option, then he would be your quarterback in 2022, right? But all things considered, I think the Eagles would be picking high in 2022. And there should be, like there are in 2021, a handful of some pretty solid quarterbacks coming out in that draft. Again, we don't know them yet. I know that there's a lot of highly touted guys, but let's see how they do in college next year. Let's see how all that process works out. The good thing is, and I don't know that we can say this, not to get off on a tangent, Roy. No. I don't know that we've been able to say this in the past, but it's no longer where there's only a handful of options, right? It's no longer where there's like one quarterback coming out in college or two quarterbacks coming out in college. Recently, we're seeing, hey, there's like 3 or 4 guys that are legit, that we think are going to be legit quarterbacks. Right. So that crop of kids always, at least recently anyway, seems to be infused. So for the Eagles, if you're a quarterback needy team, there's going to be guys to pick from. And if Jalen Hurts isn't the answer, especially with potentially recouping a first round pick from the Colts, the Eagles will have some ammo to be able to move up in the first round to go get their guy should he be coming out. So that quarterback A or quarterback X, whatever, that we don't know about would certainly be a reality.
The silver lining with this whole thing is it's the NFL. And teams, if you get a couple off seasons right, you're back in the mix. Question is, can they have a couple of good off seasons? It's not just, and I know we want to hammer the draft, but it's also signing a free agent on the cheap. It's getting like, that's where I think 2017 gets lost, is how we just hit a grand slam in 2017 with those free agent guys like Chris Long, like the Patrick Robinsons. Like he hasn't. What last good free agent has he signed?
Well, I mean, and look at it this way too. 2015, Jameis Winston goes 1, and then 2 was Marcus Mariota. Okay, so Jameis Winston he's gone, and all Tampa Bay did go out is sign Tom Brady, win a Super Bowl. And Marcus Mariota's gone, and all Tennessee goes out and signs Ryan Tannehill, and now they're a legitimate playoff contender in the AFC. And then you have the very next year, Jared Goff goes 1, and Carson Wentz goes 2, and Jared Goff is gone, and all the Rams did in the meantime is bring in Matt Stafford, and now Carson Wentz is gone to Philadelphia. And we don't know where that's going. But my point is, these teams are moving off these guys. Because they don't have to hold on to them with everything they've got. There are other options out there, and they're backfilling and having success.
No, I think the Wentz and the Goff thing has told you, don't ignore the dead cap. Because, I mean, like, it's saying if a situation is untenable, the team is going to eat it. And, like, I think that's what – because and numbers guys like me should be like weary about these dead cap numbers, but when like the Rams, they like people forget they traded Brandon Cooks, a wide receiver, and ate $20 million in dead cap. You think they're not going to eat $20 million dead cap for Jared Goff to get to get Stafford? Like it's
not my
like,
money.
Yeah, no, it's like you gotta look, and it's like you gotta look at like the locker room element, because like I think that's what people kept saying. Oh, Carson might be back, because like he wasn't coming back to that locker room. Like I mean, like especially with that, like, and it seemed like there were factions. Like I mean, like, and we could say like the vets wanted Carson, the young bulls wanted Jalen. It's like that's not a recipe for like a good locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when a quarterback's not your go ahead. I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
I was going to say, anytime you've got division in a locker room, I mean, that's if you a locker room divided, that's not a winning culture, and that's something that Doug did a really good job with that early, and that's in large part that blend of youth, that blend of veterans on both sides of the ball was in part why they won the Super Bowl in 2017, and then it eroded. And it started deteriorating. And it wasn't just Doug's fault. It wasn't just Howie's fault. It wasn't just Carson's fault. It was the locker room's fault.
Yeah,
too.
no,
because it's their job to keep it together as well.
It was a team that got fat and lazy, that were still they were living off that Super Bowl more than the fans were. Like I mean, it's like you couldn't play that hungry dog element anymore. No underdogs. It was like I mean, like they weren't holding each other accountable. That like I really feel like that's an underplayed part in all this. It's like obviously you want your coach to hold, but the players should be doing that to each other.
Well, they don't check each other.
Yeah,
and I think the sign of a good locker room, whether you're we keep saying whether you're the quarterback or the 53rd man on the roster, is you've got to have the ability to check somebody and be able to take being checked. And I think there were a lot of inflated egos. There were a lot of quote unquote leaders on that team that either weren't checking others or didn't take too kindly when they got checked, because they had this inflated sense of self, right? Because now, look, I'm a Super Bowl champion now, right? Or a multi-time Super Bowl champion, depending on who we're talking about. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
And I think that's an organization. That is the reason for this organizational disaster. Is everyone was looking for clout. The GM was looking for power over the coach. The coach was like, "Yo, I won a Super Bowl. Let me coach. Stop giving me a hard time about my staff." The quarterback, like, I mean, it's just, and that's why it's like, obviously hindsight's 2020. It's like they held on to like a lot of these guys, and like maybe this is what happens with championship teams. It's like you try to milk that crew too many times.
You know what it is? It's a sign of immaturity. It's a sign of, you can tell that this team ain't used to winning. Despite what we want to think about the Eagles, despite the fact that that's our squad and we grew up with them, and you could tell that locker room, from top to bottom, from the owner to the GM to the coach to the players, they weren't ready to win a championship. They did, and they stumbled upon it, and they got it. But what they did with it when they had it, it didn't motivate them to go change the new norm, as they wanted to label that. That's all great, and it sounds nice, and it'll make for a lot of fancy headlines. Fantastic. But the reality is, everybody wanted some clout, like you said, or we're going to do a new book deal here. Yes. Or I'm the new leader now, or whatever it may be. Everyone kind of got a little fat and happy, a little full of themselves, and they wound up running around like they'd done something, when in reality, all they did was scratch the surface. And now they took one step forward and now 5 steps back because of it.
Yeah, and when we got to take a couple steps out of here because our time's almost up. But before we sign off, as always, Jason, please let the folks out there know how they can kind of check you out online.
Oh, very simple. If you dare, you can hit me up on Twitter, all Ashworth, at all Ashworth. That's just so you know, it's all my tweets, it's all my opinions. If you dare, like I said, don't have a lot of fans, but the ones that do, enjoy the show.
The man is not. He is always up for engagement. So if you want to have a discussion about the Eagles and other things, again, at all Ashworth on Twitter. Again, he will. I was going to say bait you, but bait's not the right word. He will. No,
I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you my honest opinion, whether you like it or not. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Let's have a real conversation.
Exactly. Real conversations are kind of lacking these days on social media. But thank you, Jason, as always, for joining us for a real conversation here on 106.5 FM, WPPM LP Philadelphia. We are out of here. Until next week, Mr. Domingo, take us out, please.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
See you guys.
Yeah. That was great, guys.
Jason was fired. I could tell Jason was fired up on it. When that trade went down, I got the tweet. I got the text like 3 minutes later. He was like, "Oh boy!" I was like,
"No." But you know what, Jason? Like, I watched all those posts, like I watched all those outsiders that you did, like critiquing Carson accurately, like and like you were getting all this Carson's a hate, you're a Carson hater, but it's like you got to read the tea leaves at some point, and there were too many tea leaves this year. Like, and it's like I always say, look at the source of the report and look how many times it's been reported, and like there are too many of these reports that are saying, yo, like no, like you said. To a man, no one was checking each other, and it seemed like that dude didn't want to be checked.
I absolutely hate saying it.
Yeah.
I don't. When we were on the show, I didn't want to call out Carson. Like I knew what that was going to do. I don't want people coming at my neck. But the reality, and even with these situations here, if I see it, right? It's the old TO, right? If it walks like a duck, quacks like a type deal. Like if I see it, then it is what it is. I'm going to say it because I can't. Right. I'm not doing anybody a service if I'm just making up shit. No, this is what I see. This is the reality of the situation. Take it or leave it. So let me but like I said, it doesn't make for a lot. It doesn't make for a lot of fans on Twitter. I get more hate than I do anything else.
But here's the thing, though, right? Like, let me. Are we reading? Like, Carson just hasn't said anything. Like, are we reading too much into this?
No.
Because he hasn't said a word. He hasn't said a word other than Rodney McLeod. You're the man of the year. That's all he said for months.
Congratulations, coach. Let's get it.
What does Carson Wentz owe us? Really? Like, he
owes us nothing. He owes us nothing. I agree with you, Roy. He owes us nothing, especially with the way that some folks in Philadelphia have tried to character assassinate him. Right. So, and I understand the thought of, I'm not saying anything because it's not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to do any good. So I'm just going to keep quiet. There is a quiet maturity to that. Right. So I originally, anyway, agreed with all of that. But when it gets to the point that, okay, Carson, and they said it was civil, fine, we're going to trade you for Carson at that point. That was a gut check moment for Carson. Right. And it's either, okay, hold on. No, let's settle this. Right. Let's go ahead and squash this. I'll make a statement. We're all good. We're heading into next year. We're going to settle this whole beef. Now's the time to speak because I don't want to getting to that penultimate situation. And he chose to just sit quiet, not say a word. And for me, that was him saying, "No, I
don't want to be here.
I want out."
Yeah, no,
come on, Carson.
Let's stop playing this game.
And maybe he did. That's okay. Maybe he wants out. Fine.
Right.
Just say it then.
Yes, just say it.
Say I want out.
Yes. So
then, you wind up with a 4th round pick. Like, what do you?
Because people are still in this.
You're not wrong.
No, but the people are, and for me, it's just owning shit. Like, because there are so many people out there that are just refusing to believe. Like, it's this massive victimization of Carson Wentz, where like he had nothing to do with he had a lot to do with what went down.
Carson needs to own his part of it. I'm not blaming Carson, right? And I've said this before. I think that, again, at the top, it's Lurie, because Lurie has allowed this entire thing to happen. So at the end of the day, if you're mad at anybody, it's Lurie. And the general manager has mismanaged this entire situation, his poor drafts. He's put us, right, wrong, or indifferent, he's put us in the cap situation that we're in, but he's mismanaged that relationship. And then Carson has his own cross to bear with how he played and how he's reacted to the things that have happened. And that locker room has their own cross to bear with how they've managed the situation and their relationships inside the NovaCare complex. So everybody's got their blame. I just need Carson, for me personally, I need Carson to own his share. And by not talking, it looks like he's just avoiding it and sweeping it under the rug and saying, and maybe he will when he gets to Indy. I highly doubt he will. Like, what's he going to do? He gets introduced to Indy, and now he's going to start talking about Philly? Like, he's not.
No, the quote's going to be, what's in the past is in the past. I'm not here. Correct. He's going to pull a Sam.
I'm an Indianapolis Colt now.
Yeah, I'm not here to talk about the past. No, like, I mean, that's why, like, this, like, there will never be, like, this closing the book on this, like, because people want a resolution, like they wanted a finite, like, what happened.
It's a breakup.
Yeah,
Can you break up so I'm not sitting here in limbo for the next however many years?
Right.
Like, can
You
we
wanna
just
know-
have a
you wanna know
one-on-one
why.
real quick?
Yeah.
Just tell me what happened. Tell me why you feel the way you feel. That okay, it's unattainable. We're going our separate ways. You tried this, I tried that. Look, it didn't work out. It's
He
okay.
ghosted
People break
you.
up all the
He
time.
ghosted you.
We're getting
Deal
ghosted.
with it.
Who
You got
can? I can't
ghosted.
deal with getting ghosted.
You got
Who
ghost-
can?
You got ghosted. You got
No,
I
ghosted.
don't like it.
No,
I don't like
no.
it. I don't like it.
No, and I think that like people like I can't remember another athlete in a while that like people were like emotionally invested in. Like I mean, like I don't like maybe AI, but like people were like, and it's the whole like he's a really good dude. So like, oh my god, Carson, like Carson is unable, like he's incapable of being a bad teammate because he's like this God-fearing Christian man. No, that's the point. It's like he's probably an awesome dude, but he's probably a pain in the ass.
Well, so we probably did it to ourselves then because we put him on this pedestal of what we
Yes.
thought he was, and then when he doesn't, and it's unfair. We do it to athletes all the time.
Right.
You put him on this pedestal, and you expect, because I think you're X, Y, Z, and because I create this platform to put you on. If you don't do what I think you should do when I think you should do it, I'm just going to keep knocking you down a peg and saying, you're not who I thought you were. Well, who gives a shit who you thought I was, right? I'm just some dude from North Dakota who's getting paid to play football. You guys brought me here, and y'all disserviced me during my time here. What do I owe you? To your point?
No, I asked this all, like, how much of this started just with Foles? Like, not even the Foles thing, but like him, like you said, like he's been on this like trajectory on trying to be loved. Like, I don't know whether it's by man, like we said, maybe this unofficially happened February the 4th, 2018. Like, I mean, it's one of those.
I don't think winning the Super Bowl was as bad for him as others do. If Carson went into that game, he wasn't sitting there saying, I really hope we lose. No, Carson wanted to win that game too, right? Now, it's everything that happened after the Super Bowl. It was all the talk radio telling you Foles is better. When to a man, everybody watching knows, no, he's not.
Yeah.
No, he's not. Stop it. And then when you have Jeffrey Lurie bless, because I don't care that Bud Light created the statue. When Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman said, it's a good idea. It's like little things like that. If I'm a player, I'm sitting there saying, bro, and again, I should have mentioned that with the immature part. Like, you're putting a statue up the next year because you won a freaking Super Bowl, but because Lurie let that happen, and now this dude has to show up to work every day and look at a statue of somebody else who half the city wants in that town. Okay, now we're chipping away.
So now you're chipping at his mental. So really, this was like a progressive chip. Like,
it's a whole bunch of it's a whole bunch of
like, and I think you can't tell me that some of those dudes that caught those touchdowns from Nick didn't prefer him over Carson. And it's not even like obvious, but it's it's like subtle, where it's like, yo, Nick would have got me that ball like better.
You know what it is? And I've talked to a couple guys about this that would know. They attribute a lot of it to he's North Dakota. And the reason that they like Nick Foles so much more was Nick Foles has experienced and been exposed to so much more culture going to Michigan State, and just the way Nick Foles, his experiences in life versus North Dakota experiences in life. He doesn't not only his Christian background, but the fact that he's just some white dude from North Dakota. He didn't know he didn't understand the rest of the culture in the locker room. He didn't know how to bond. What they were talking about and found funny, or it wasn't his life. So guys couldn't bond with him. Where Nick Foles is over there, a big dick Nick out there swinging in the locker room, making jokes with everybody.
Exactly. And also
they're gonna ingratiate themselves.
And it also helped. Nick has been humbled many times before that. Like, I mean,
like,
and I think that's where I hope, because it's like, I'm not rooting against Carson, but this is where I hope Carson gets his Foles humbled moment to say, like, okay,
I hope
I didn't pull my end of the bargain in Philly. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna and it's not telling you to be fake, but it's like, I don't know, maybe extend an arm a little once in a while. Like, I mean, do I need you posting IG videos of like rap videos? No, but like, I don't make an effort, because I've heard
he has to make an effort,
but
sometimes it's just not your personality, and it just doesn't. And depending on how strict he is, which for all intent and purposes he is very strict in his Christian. Look, locker rooms are not really faith based. Okay, now to what degree, again, we don't know. But if you've played sports, you know that there are things that go down in the locker room that probably aren't very faith-based. Okay.
Right.
And he will have to just accept that. And not just accept it, but if he wants to bond with his teammates, there's just ways I'm not saying do things that are anti who you are as a person, but you got to learn to laugh at jokes, and you got to have some fun with your teammates, and you got to bond, and you got to do the team building. All that shit matters in the locker room.
Yeah,
that's why they want to play for you. You got to like the person that you're with.
Yeah, don't invite them. Yeah, don't invite them deer hunting. Like I mean, like
it works for Fletcher Cox and maybe Trent Cole back in the day, but it ain't gonna work now.
It don't work with Rager. It don't work.
Right.
Like, I think that's where it's like he needs to get out of his comfort zone. Like because and like he has. It's not like he's not liked on the team. He has a lot of friends on the team. It's just that faction where it's like,
you know what I wonder? It's so probably unfair to wonder this, but I often do wonder this. I wonder how much his wife played a role. Like off the record completely. I wonder how much his wife influenced
or just having a family.
His decision. Well, no, and I don't mean it that way. I don't
mean it no. Yeah.
His priorities have changed, right?
Yes.
Because especially with who he is as a person, his priorities, okay, I'm responsible for my wife and my child now. That all, yes. But I wonder, I don't know the relationship that he has, and I know he values with his beliefs the partnership between man and woman more than probably, or at a different level than probably a lot of America does. So I wonder, with the way people were bagging on him and the things what people were saying on him, what was in his ear with her? Was she the constant positive and motivating factor that, hey, ignore it, block out the noise, stick to your gut, stick to who you are, or let's get the hell out of here, screw this town, they don't appreciate you, let's go to a small, like, let's get out of Philadelphia to where he's sitting. And that's why he wasn't saying anything, because he's believing her, he's listening to her.
Right.
And I think that's what people on the record don't want to say is some dudes aren't meant for big markets. Like, I mean, like, and it's like, it's being in a big market when you're the borderline MVP is really, really good. But when you're struggling the way he did, it's bad. And it's like, some people just aren't like, people don't need that 24/7 attention. And like, she's from North Dakota too. Like, I mean,
you need that strong, the strongest guys out there, the most successful guys out there in reality has got just as successful or just as of a strong woman behind them, right? To support them, to help them navigate through difficult waters. Now, I'm not saying successful meaning financially, because that's all differently or all different when you're an athlete, but they've got a confident, secure, strong woman pushing them, because they want them to be the best version of themselves that they can be. I don't know her personality, and I don't know what he looks for in a woman, but I also don't know that if he had that successful, motivating, strong push behind him, that we'd be in this situation right now. And maybe he just wanted a partner to smack him around.
He just didn't want to, like, he just was done with, like, I don't know. And it's like, there's a lot to say about the first time that you're dealing with, like, major noise that you just kind of said no mas.
Yeah.
See, I think it just comes back to this whole alpha dog thing, like you said, Jason. Some guys may think they're alpha dogs until you're around alpha dogs. And when Jalen Hurts came in the locker room, like you guys said, like
he was an alpha. No,
there's
he looks
juice.
like
there's some juice. Like when Jalen Hurts walks in a room, like there's something about him. He has that presence.
And I don't think
Carson has that. I don't think Carson has that in that locker room.
Alpha dogs don't have to tell you they're an alpha dog.
Alpha, exactly.
They're just the alpha dog.
You just know. You just know it. And so it's like Jalen Hurts doesn't have to, extend the olive branch to Miles Sanders and Jalen Reagor or whatever like that. Like they're coming to him. Like Carson Wentz has to go that extra mile to say, hey, let's hang out after practice and like throw some passes around. Like it's like you gotta force it a little bit when you're a Carson Wentz. He's just not that guy.
No,
and when he feels he has to force it, when he feels he has to ask or ploy, all that does is chip away at his confidence that maybe I'm not who I think I am because these dudes aren't coming to me. I got to go to them. That's human. I get it. That's natural, but it's also an indicator.
No, I think that's what people are forgetting about this whole thing is the human part. Is like the dude just got fed up. Like I mean, and it's like, and I think you said it, Jason. It's like the effort was there to build around Carson. The execution was F-. But I mean, like they tried. I mean, they drafted. Like I mean, the owner
wide receiver in the first round in Reagor, running back in Miles Sanders in the second round, wide receiver in J. Jaw in the second round. Traded for Goodwin, traded for Jackson.
Like drafted Dillard.
Yeah, drafted Dillard.
Drafted J. Jaw. everything they did was with the offense and either protecting him or getting him skill positions in mind. Like what else? They went out and they got Goddard in the second round. Like everything they did in the beginning of these drafts were with Carson and this offense in mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it didn't.
What
pan
else you
out.
want, bro? Yeah, no,
But don't say. But it's not like they didn't take their shots.
But don't say they didn't try, because they tried.
Correct. And so that, and I don't think Carson will tell you they didn't try. I think Carson's frustrated, much in the way that Russell. Look, all quarterbacks are getting frustrated now. They're looking around the league saying, because with Russell Wilson coming out saying, well, hold on, why not me? Look what Tom has. Tom left New England. And he goes, why not me? And I think a lot of quarterbacks are going through that. Hold on, why not me?
Yeah.
Right? Well, because we gave you X, Y, Z. Or because you've got there's everybody's situation and context is so completely different. But all any quarterback is doing nowadays is looking around the league and picking out somebody who's got it better and saying, well, I deserve better then. It's become a real iffy league that way. And maybe it's always been that way. I don't know. We just have more exposure to it now. But it's just become a real keeping up with the Joneses type league, from a quarterback position. So,
and
I don't want to get
happy.
No, man, this was a really good talk. I needed this to get off my chest.
Absolutely. That's why I reached out, man. 180 characters or whatever it is not going to get it done for me. I need to flap the gums a little bit just to get it off my chest. So I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity.
No, thanks as always, man, for chopping it up. But yeah, so I'll shoot you the link on Saturday when it goes live. But
appreciate it, man.
Still, whenever, the door's always open.
No, I'll do it whenever you guys want. So if you guys need an extra, I'm not Paul Pierce, but if you guys need somebody to take a shot,
Kevin Garnett. Like, what do you want?
Okay, fine, fair enough. Ray Allen. Can I be Ray Allen? Can I be Ray Allen on the Celtics?
All right, Ray Allen's fine. I wanted to be Ray Allen because Ray Allen kind of sits in the corner, kind of lets everybody else work, So I wanted to be Ray Allen.
Oh, that's very valid. That's very valid. No, that's very fair. That's you. That's you.
That's me. I'll let you guys work. So if you want to go and get in the post and kind of get dirty and be KG, that's fine.
Can I be Anton Walker?
Employee number 8.
I got a ring.
Little shimmy.
I still got a ring, right? Right? No, anytime you guys want an extra voice or it's just a slow day and you're just going to need somebody to kind of flap off, please let me know because I'm always it's the pandemic, dude. I ain't doing anything. I'm always looking to talk. So just let me know.
Exactly, man. Hey, like I said, always here, man.
See you guys.
Be safe, guys.
Right, guys. Yep,
Take care.